What would you do if you found out your beloved daughter was the result of cuckoldry? Would you demand alimony and divorce, taking legal action against the wrongdoing? At the time, my wife and I were in our early 30s. We had a family of 5. Our eldest daughter was 7, our second daughter was 5, and our youngest daughter was 3. I was a reasonably successful IT engineer at a large corporation, and my wife was a stay-at-home mom. To outsiders, we must have seemed like an ordinary, happy family. Moreover, my wife was stunningly beautiful, turning heads wherever she went. I had no experience with women until my wife approached me. At first, I was like someone trying to avoid buying expensive pottery, running away, but in the end, I fell head over heels and we began dating. 3 months into the relationship, she told me she was pregnant. Bewildered by the rapid progression, I thought she would ask for money for an abortion, but instead, she said, "Let's take responsibility and get married." I never thought she would consider marrying me. Does she love me that much? I wondered, naively inexperienced in love, and I was moved, so we married right away. I thought we were set for a happy life, but after our child was born, my wife's attitude changed dramatically. Despite showing no interest in me, she would aggressively come onto me every few years. As a result, 2 years after our eldest daughter was born, our second daughter arrived, followed by our youngest. My career was going well, I was getting promotions, and business trips became more frequent. That's when we started thinking about buying a house. Then, without consulting me, my wife decided on a house close to her parents' home. "It'll take me over 2 hours to commute from there,"
That's fine.
she said.
I can't raise 3 kids alone without help from my mom. If you hate commuting, why not live apart for work?
She suggested. I was slightly hurt by her unilateral actions and the way she seemed to imply she didn't need me as long as she had my paycheck, but by then, our marriage had already cooled off. Despite the poor marital relationship, my career was on track. I got promoted at 33. That led to the start of my living apart for work, just as my wife wanted. When I was getting used to the new environment, I received a text from an unregistered number. It read, "Your wife is cheating on you," with a link to a website. I thought it was some new type of phishing scam and deleted the message immediately. But something about it nagged at me. I remembered my wife going out after leaving our daughters at her parents', and there were days she didn't answer her phone. Everything seemed suspicious, but I was too busy with work to hire a private investigator, and a month passed by. During a rare weekend I could spend at home, my wife informed me.
Betty will visit on Saturday.
Betty was one of my wife's few friends, seemingly a junior from a previous job. As soon as I got home, my daughters ran up, hugging me and exclaiming,
Daddy, welcome back.
Watching my daughters compete for my attention instantly melted away the stress of work.
Sorry to intrude,
said Betty, peeking out from behind my daughters to greet me. My wife always speaks highly of you. Please make yourself at home. Uncharacteristically cheerful, my wife offered me a beer after my bath. Not tonight for me. How about Betty?
She's upstairs playing with the kids.
The dinner table, lively with the 6 of us including Betty, was a joyous change. Betty, aren't you planning to marry? You'd make a great wife, I blurted out, inappropriately.
Betty has always looked up to me. She mimics everything I do.
My wife boasted to Betty. Far from being upset, Betty smiled and listened to my wife's stories. I thought to myself, I wish I had married such a good person, but couldn't say it out loud. When it was time to leave, I drove Betty to the station. Thanks for today. The girls had a great time playing with you.
Your daughters are adorable. They don't look much like you though.
I hear that a lot. Everyone says they resemble their mother.
They look like their father, especially the eldest. She's the spitting image of her father.
What?
Don't you see? You're really oblivious. Your daughter's real father is the man your wife is having an affair with.
What? What are you suddenly talking about?
I told you your wife is cheating, remember? Have you forgotten?
Did you send that email?
Yes, I did. You didn't bother to check after I told you. I had to come and see for myself since you weren't taking action.
The email I thought was a scam and deleted was from Betty. She took 3 small sealed bags from her bag, containing strands of hair.
This is your eldest daughter's hair. This is your second daughter's. And this is your youngest's. Verify for yourself whether what I'm saying is true.
Why are you doing this? What's your motive?
My goal, to bring Susan down to hell.
I was too stunned to respond, my mind in turmoil, but I instinctively took the hair samples from Betty. Torn between wanting to believe and feeling distrust, I resolved to find out the truth for myself. After much deliberation, I ordered a DNA test. The results confirmed there was no biological relation between me and my daughters. I had braced myself when I requested the test, but the actual results hit me so hard I couldn't focus on anything. I started making minor mistakes at work, causing concern among my colleagues. Eventually, I managed to think clearly and decided to demand alimony from both Susan and her lover. To do this, I needed proof of the affair and the cuckoldry. I installed a hidden camera in our bedroom. Sooner than expected, within a week, I successfully recorded evidence of the affair.
I want a boy who looks like you, John.
Going for our fourth child.
Yeah, Michael won't notice anyway. He'll be happy without knowing anything, right? Thinking it's his child and playing house, hilarious.
You're such a wicked woman.
But my mother told me to make the fourth child Michael's. Seeing him dote on the daughters is bad for my heart.
While fighting nausea, I watched Susan and John and realized my in-laws knew about the children's actual father. They had all been deceiving me for 7 years. Visiting Susan's family home reminded me of the concern my in-laws had shown for me. After all, I was raising the child of Susan's lover. No wonder they were so kind. The shock was immense, but at that point, I still had a shred of rationality.
The girls will be home soon. Lately, the eldest has been so defiant, it's unbearable. Always talking back. All three are not cute at all. Maybe I should push them onto Michael and get a divorce.
That's a good idea. Maybe you should let him get seduced by some random woman. Create a pretext for infidelity. Let's grab a hefty alimony.
Sounds great. We don't need any of them. Let's ditch both the kids and Michael and grab a big payout.
Hearing this, I lost all rationality. These people were inhuman. They weren't just deceiving me, but they also so easily contemplated discarding their own children. I didn't opt for demanding alimony, but came up with a different plan. Susan usually brought her lover, John, into our house on Wednesday afternoons. I took a day off and waited near my house. I saw John entering my home as if he owned the place, and at the right moment, I burst into the bedroom. As soon as I opened the bedroom door, I locked eyes with John, who was embracing my naked wife. John, seeing me, widened his eyes in shock and pushed Susan away. I had never fought or had any martial arts experience, so I resorted to a dirty trick. I sprayed John's face with insecticide, shouting, "Pests must be exterminated, exterminated." While he was writhing and flailing, trying to protect his eyes, I said, "You gotta watch out." And then I ignited the spray with a lighter, causing his face to burst into flames like a firework. "Beautiful," I exclaimed, enjoying the off-season facial fireworks before dousing him with a mini fire extinguisher. Emerging from the white smoke, John was only slightly trembling in his lower body. For the finishing touch, I beat him mercilessly with a metal bat, like playing whack-a-mole. After he stopped moving, I kicked him and then turned to face Susan. She tried to distance herself from me while covering her body with a sheet. Looking at me with eyes wide in terror, Susan resembled exactly what I imagined a person would look like when scared.
Listen, it's a misunderstanding.
She pleaded.
He manipulated me. I only truly love you.
Thank you for that. I love you too. Here's my gift, I said. I swung the metal bat, hitting her in the waist. Moaning in pain, Susan flailed like a cockroach, then crawled to the balcony and jumped off without hesitation. Hearing a squash-like sound, I looked down to see Susan lying naked, her limbs twisted in unnatural directions. Thinking they should be together till the end, I carried John, whose upper body was burnt, and dropped him from the balcony. Dealing with adults turned out to be quite labor-intensive. Thinking I'd have muscle soreness the next day, I called the police and was arrested on the spot. The lives of Susan, John, and I ended that day. Memory is a strange thing. I can still vividly recall that day. It's as if it's stuck in my brain, unshakable. However, my memories after the arrest are vague. The only thing I clearly remember is when I heard that both Susan and John survived. Good for you. Your sentence will be lighter, they said, but I was disappointed because I had been ready to finish them off. John was left blind and his upper body scarred with keloids from burns. After falling from the second floor, he damaged his spine, leading to paralysis from the waist down, condemning him to a bedridden life with comfortable diapers until his death. Susan had to be hospitalized for about 4 months due to broken bones in her limbs and hips, twisted in unnatural directions, though her face remained unscathed. Only Betty visited once after the incident. I thought she'd be pleased that her wish to drag Susan to hell had come true, but she left disappointed, saying, "This is hardly hell. You went too easy on her." In detention, all I could think about was my daughters. Susan, during her hospital stay, declared she couldn't raise them and sent them to an orphanage. Hearing that, I broke down crying, not caring about the people around me, because I had ruined my daughters' lives. Yet, I don't regret or feel remorse for punishing Susan and John. My only regret is not causing more damage to Susan. I was prepared for a real prison sentence, but thanks to my lawyer's efforts, a lot of leniency was shown. I received a suspended sentence. Even with the suspension, I couldn't return to my previous life. I moved far from where I used to live, to a rural town in the Northeast. The probation officer got me a job at a small printing factory. My case had made the news, so I was advised to brace myself for a challenging life. Being a loner, I didn't mind just going between work and home. I was completely isolated from society, but I kept a cell phone to be reachable at all times. 5 years after the incident, I received a letter at my apartment. I didn't recognize the sender's name, and assuming it was hate mail or from some self-proclaimed human rights lawyer, I threw it away unopened. Soon after, another letter arrived from the same sender. It mentioned wanting to discuss Susan and me, but I wanted nothing to do with her and didn't respond. Nevertheless, the letters kept coming with more details in each. It turned out that the sender's son had married Susan. On a day when the parents were happy about their long single-since marriage, they received an anonymous call involving my wife, Susan. The caller gave my address and name, saying, "Ask this man for details." They immediately suspected it was Betty. Contacting the sender's number, they said, "We'll meet just once." The meeting was with a middle-aged couple, about the same age as my parents. They started suspecting Susan after the anonymous call. Despite having warned their son like she needs money for family medical bills and can't repay her student loans, he was too infatuated with Susan to listen, and even threatened to sever ties if they doubted her. Susan was a woman who prided herself only on her looks, deceiving their son, just like she did with me. I told them everything, from how I met Susan to the present. When the conversation touched on my criminal record, their expression stiffened. After I finished, the couple thanked me. Despite the threat of disownment, they resolved to uncover the truth through a private investigator. 2 months later, they contacted me again. Meeting at the same place, they looked relieved.
Thanks to you, things have been settled,
they said. I replied, "I haven't done anything." "What do you mean by settled?" They explained.
The private investigator found that, aside from our son, she had hinted at marriage with 3 other men and received about $300,000 in total. She was easily arrested for marriage fraud, and added to her charges was resisting arrest. The police said it's her first offense, but the crime is too severe to avoid actual prison time. Our son has finally come to his senses and is grateful to you. We owe you a lot for saving our family. Thank you.
Rather, I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for isolating that woman from society. I'm glad your son didn't have to go through what I did.
It's not exactly a thank you, but
He then handed me his business card, which bore the name of one of the industry's leading companies and his title as executive director. What does this mean? I asked.
we found your information in the investigation files as her ex-husband. You were a skilled engineer before the incident. That woman may have derailed your life, but you are still young. Our industry is short of skilled personnel. It would be a loss for the industry if someone as capable as you were to have their future cut short due to unfortunate circumstances. Would you consider joining our company as an engineer? Please, I've been convicted. I'd just be a burden to your company. Engineers can work from home. There's no need to meet face to face. Even if someone knows about you, No one in our company would make a fuss about it. To be honest, we're too busy to bother about others.
I hesitated to respond immediately. After about 3 weeks of contemplation, I gratefully accepted the offer. Despite being remote, it was quite far from the company. I waited for my probation period to end and then moved. On moving day, Betty appeared before me. "You again."
Congratulations on your new job. It's thanks to me, right?
"In a way, yes. Susan's behind bars now. You must be satisfied. That was your goal, to drag Susan to hell. This is as hellish as it gets, right? Stop obsessing over Susan and live your own life."
Being arrested is hardly hell. Don't make me laugh.
"Excuse me."
I attended the trial. Susan was as beautiful as ever, even without makeup. Her natural beauty stood out even more. Susan will do it again. As long as she lives with that beauty, there will be more victims. We won't meet again. Goodbye. Take care.
Just tell me, why do you hate Susan so much?
John was my ex-fiancé. A week before our wedding, he suddenly said, "Let's break up," because I found someone else. That someone was Susan. She's always had a way of taking what's mine. Even knowing he was my fiancé, she seduced him. But John wasn't as wealthy as you, so he didn't satisfy her as a marriage partner. Just the type to have a child and then leave it with someone like you.
With that, Betty walked away. That was the story from 3 years ago. Now, I regularly visit my daughters at the facility, and it makes me incredibly happy. Even though we're not related by blood, I consider them my daughters. The incident is now entirely in the past for me. But there was one person whose story hadn't ended yet, Betty. One day, the news reported a woman arrested for throwing acid on another woman's face right after she was released from prison. Betty finally succeeded in destroying the face of the woman who was the root of all evil, my ex-wife. I can say this much. Guys, stay away from women like that. People like us are always easy targets, no matter the era.